Welcome back to Honey in the Rock, episode 51. I'm Sophie, and I'm so glad you're listening today. It's a solo episode today, and I'm going to be talking about boundaries. But first, I'll give you a little life update. So, I started senior year. When this episode comes out, I think I'll be starting my third week of senior year, which was more emotional than I thought it was going to be. Maybe because I have two brothers that have like very few emotions, and I probably have more than normal amount. And so I definitely like took it very like to heart. Like it was just like, whoa, what in the world? Um, so that was definitely weird starting just like being with like girls that I've been with since kindergarten, and then like just to see like what the Lord has done through these past couple years in high school, but also just like since kindergarten, and like just like looking at all my different friends, like it was weird. And then it was also like, whoa, we're growing up. And then a couple days ago, my brothers moved into college, which was also harder than I thought it was going to be. When my oldest brother went to college, it was like hard on me, but I still had one here, so it was just like I wasn't alone. And now since both of them are moving out, like whoa, I'm the only kid. So if you have any only child advice, let me know. I am here to learn. So it's just been weird. It's going to be a fun season of life, I know, and I know senior year, I just got to soak it up. But it definitely is a big change. And I don't think I like changes apparently. So there's that. And then also, as you started school, so whether you're in middle school, high school, college, or if you're a mom of a kid in school, or even if you're like an adult wanting to pour into somebody in school, like all these things. But just thinking about the opportunities that we have in our schools to share the gospel is so crazy. And I quite honestly think that I'm going to be jealous of it one day, of how many opportunities that we share or that we have in our hallways right now. Um, I just think of like how many non-believers are probably in my class, and that I'm placed in each classroom for a reason, and you're placed in each classroom for a reason, and your lunch, wherever you are, like you're placed in there for a reason. And so be bold. Don't be ashamed of the gospel. And I think that starts with like being a good friend, being kind, living like Jesus, and then they'll see that. And then when you get the opportunity to share with them the gospel, they're going to be like, wait, you have been so nice to me. You've been welcoming. You've been kind. You haven't gossiped. And now you're sharing with the gospel. Like, that's great. Obviously, we're not going to be perfect, but it's just like it really is such a cool opportunity to share. Or as your sports team starts back, or your band, or like whatever you're a part of, like starts back, just think about the opportunities you have to share the gospel and be bold in your faith and let the Lord speak through you. So that's really just, or like, yeah, so I think that's just something to be super aware of, just the opportunities that we have right now in school. And then, like, obviously, if you're not in school, you can like encourage your kids to, or even like find somebody in your church that you could like mentor and be there for. Also, would probably be really good, because I'm super thankful for the people that chosen to mentor me and pour into me. And so they've like really encouraged me and like show me how to be bold in my faith at school and stuff. So that's my life update. If you have any not single child, only child advice, let me know. Anything that I need to make sure I do senior year, let me know. Open to suggestions. And also, if you have any ideas for podcasts that you'd like to see coming up, I also want to hear what you guys want to listen to. So let me know. Also, so boundaries. If someone brought up boundaries to me 6 months ago, I would have thought that they didn't, like, I didn't need them, or I probably didn't understand them at all. But I also was like, who needs boundaries? Not me, at least. I'm not married, or I'm not in dating, I'm not like whatever. I just assumed I didn't need boundaries. But as I was talking to my therapist one day, we uncovered that I actually do need boundaries in some aspects of my life. And that's when she told me to read this book. It's called Boundaries. What a creative title. Um, when to say yes, how to say no, to take control of your life. Um, and so this book, the first part, I read all of it, but then part two, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't read all of it because some of them like didn't really apply to me. Boundaries with your spouse, and boundaries with my kids. I don't have a husband or kids because I'm in high school. So those two, I didn't read those two chapters, but the other ones were really good with family, friends, with work, with our, like with the digital age, with yourself, with God, um, just like really good boundaries. And I was like, whoa, I didn't realize there was so much to boundaries. And so I think I've pinpointed like a couple boundaries that I wanted to talk about. But first, I'll share how I had to put a boundary in my life recently. I actually have two situations, and they're both completely different. So, when my therapist first told me that she thought I needed to like read this book and start setting up boundaries, was me thinking or attempting to fix everybody else's problem or to be the perfect person for everybody. Um, and so sometimes I didn't have boundaries set up, and so I felt like I would just had to go and go and go and fix everybody's problems. But first of all, I don't have that power. I'm not God. And second of all, I'm also still human, so I'm going to run out of energy. I'm going to crash. And so I just had no boundaries. So I would, with like all of the younger like girls around me, I would try to like help them with all of their little things that they're going through and fix and break up fights and just like all of these things. And I had no boundary set up. So I was just running out of gas all the time. And then I'd be emotionally exhausted, and trying to fill my tank back up from empty was really hard. And so I just had like no boundaries. And that's when we realized like you cannot fix anybody. Like I can't fix other people. I can love people. I can do my best to be there for people, but I'm not, at the end of the day, I'm not fixing anybody. Um, and so I think that was really important for me. And also realizing that like in my in that boundary that I had to create, I was realizing that I was like controlling people, and I can't control people. Um, and so it was humbling, but also ended up being really great because now it's sweet. Like I can talk to the little girls in youth group and love them, and they can love me, and it can be both ways. But I also don't have to be everybody's mom. And so that was the first boundary that I realized I needed to set up. And that's why I dove into this. So I think there are boundaries in different aspects. I think a big one is boundaries in dating. Obviously, there's going to be, as Christians, there's boundaries in the oh my goodness, I don't have to say that word. Um, Boundaries and intimacy to honor each other and God in your dating relationship. And so you're going to have to set up boundaries to make sure you don't cross that line of what that looks like in dating. Um, and so I think that's probably like the first boundary that I can think of. Um, like immediately, it was like, oh, boundaries in dating. Keep the intimacy. Oh my gracious, this is so not good. I'm sorry. So whatever that word, to honor God, but in it you're going to be honoring each other and saving yourself for marriage. And so I think that's the first boundary that I think of. And then I think there's boundaries in friendships. And so this probably looks very different for everybody. I had to put recently up a boundary in a friendship because I was being hurt, and I don't think I was the person. I don't think was hurting me on purpose. It was just the season of life they're in, and so I had to talk to her, and it was hard, and it was actually really hard. Um, and we just have to put a little bit of distance between ourselves right now. I don't think it's like a forever ending thing, but we did have to put a little bit of distance so I could protect myself and my heart. Um, and so then she can heal a little bit with the things she's going through, so she can heal, and then we can come back together and be good friends for each other. And so but then something that I had to keep reminding myself of was, just because you have to put a boundary up doesn't mean you don't love the person, because I still love this person. I would do anything for her. But in the season of life we were in, it wasn't really going to be benefiting either one of us, and it was actually just hurting more than helping. And so still can love her while putting up that boundary. And so what that conversation looked like was being quick to apologize for what I have done, because I'm not saying I was perfect in the friendship either, but just being willing to be like, hey, this hurt me, but I know I also did this to you, and I am so sorry. So please forgive me for what I did. And then we like I said, I think that we probably need to have a little bit of distance between each other. If you ever need anything, reach out, and hopefully I can heal, you can heal, and in a couple months we can be back. to being close friends again, just in a healthier way. So just because you put a boundary up doesn't mean you don't love that person. And and so sometimes you have to say no when saying yes is going to be overwhelming and going to mess up your relationship with God. And so sometimes you have to say no to a good thing or what seems to be a good thing to continue to grow your relationship with the Lord. So I was asked to do this leadership thing. It was a great leadership program, but I know that if I say yes to that, I will lose a lot of time with my family and with like my quiet time with God. And I think in the season of life right now, I need to focus on my family and my quiet time with God. And I'm in other clubs or organizations that help with leadership or help with God. So I had to say no to this one good thing to keep up another good thing, if that makes sense. So sometimes you have to say no. Sometimes I have to say something that's hard for me is saying no to babysitting jobs. You can find like whatever kind of relates to you in that, but I don't like to say no there. But sometimes I need to say no because I need to sleep, or I need to say no so I can go to lunch with my friends. Um, and so sometimes you do have to say no, um, even when it seems like it's a good thing. And then, okay, and then sometimes you need to walk away from a situation if it's going to make you change your faith or beliefs that you already have. So sometimes you just need, that goes back into the distance with friendships, but this might be in a lot of other situations, whether that's work or family or friends. If you just need or a sport or something, you just need to walk away for a little bit to regroup the situation and then go back in. So you don't, because sometimes I think when you get weak or something's like pounding on you, you're easier to give up something. So you don't want to give up your beliefs or what you stand on just because you're getting exhausted. So sometimes you need to walk away or say no for a season and then come back when you're prepared. Um, and so a boundary, you have to respect other people's boundaries that they put up. Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot about something I wanted to say. Was I can't put boundaries on other people. I only can put a boundary on myself. So I'm going to use my mom as an example because she won't care. But like, if I was saying like, Mom, you have to do this, this, and this, and you cannot do this. Well, that's not fair to her. Like, I can't put a boundary on my mom, but I can put a boundary like, hey, Mom, it hurts me when you do this. So next time you say something like this, I am going to go and sit in my room for 30 minutes to calm down. That is putting the boundary back on me, not on her. That never happened, but that's my example. So make sure you put the boundary on yourself, not on the other person, because it's not your job to control that other person. But what I was about to say before I thought of that was to respect other people's boundaries. And so if I see that a friend has a boundary put up, I don't need to question their boundary, especially if it's honoring God. I don't need to question it or even try to cross that line. Just be like, okay, yep, you need a season of calmness and saying no to things. I'm going to respect that you said no and not talk trash about that person. Or like, let's say like, oh, I said no, I can't run cross country this year because I am not able to do this, this, and this. Instead of me being like, oh, what's her problem? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, she set up a boundary for herself to respect that. In Deuteronomy 19, it talks a lot about boundaries, respecting other people's boundaries, and like even like property boundaries, which personally is not really a struggle for me, or I don't see that really. But that one is talking about like you shall not move your neighbor's landmark. The men of the old have set into the inner hints that you hold in the land that the Lord God is giving you to possess. Um, and so like a lot of Deuteronomy 19 is just talking about boundaries. And so respect other people's boundaries. Sometimes you have to say no to something. Make sure in dating you have boundaries already set up so you can honor God in your relationship. Friendships, sometimes you have to put a little distance so you can grow closer together, and make sure you're putting boundaries on yourself, not on the other people. So that's a little recap of what we talked about so far. And then finally, make sure if you're setting a big boundary, like it might hurt somebody's feelings for a little bit when you're setting up this boundary, like I would encourage you to talk to a trusted adult or a mentor or a friend about the boundary that you're trying to set up to make sure you're going at it with the right heart. with God's intentions in mind. And so, like, when me and my friend were placing boundaries in a situation, I went and talked to a mentor about, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what she's struggling with. Do you think this boundary is acceptable? And it was. Um, but that helped make sure, even if her feelings were hurt, I still know it was prayed about, and a trusted adult saw what I was doing. It's like, yeah, that's fine. That's an okay boundary to place, and to make sure your heart's in the right place, not to set up a boundary to hurt somebody or make them feel bad about themselves, but really just out of love, so you both can have healthy relationship with God and with each other. I think boundaries in a digital age is what it talks about in chapter 12 of this boundaries book. That was really interesting to me. My mom, really pretty until recently, has taken my phone every night just to plug it in downstairs. That's given me a good boundary with my phone, with social media, with the outside world, so I can rest and sleep and not worry about what everyone else is doing. So having boundaries with my phone has been very important for me. Even like having a time limit on social media and things like that has just been important. And then work, I understand that you can't always compromise with work because sometimes you just need to make money. But if you're able to set up boundaries on work, do that. Maybe that's, if I get off at 5, I'm leaving at 5. I'm not going to take phone calls after that, or whatever that looks like, to keep the boundary there. And then obviously with kids, my mom probably could talk on that a little bit, just about how you have to have boundaries with your kids, that they're not, my mom always says, like, one day we can be best friends, but like, I'm also your mom. And so sometimes she might say something that I might not agree with or get upset about, but she's my mom and she knows best. And so you have to have that boundary of, like, I'm still in charge of you, even though we're friends, even though we get along really well, even though I love you, I'm still in charge of you. And that's where that boundary comes in with your kids. Boundaries with yourself, don't overwork yourself. And then boundaries with God, just to give him your all. Like, honestly, boundaries with God for me is almost no boundaries, because if I let him in every aspect of my life, it works so much better. So those are my thoughts on boundaries. Sorry, I can't pronounce a lot of words. I'll work on that. But this was just like a good thing for me to remind myself of, was just, what do boundaries look like, especially going into a new season of life of starting school back. And so I just want to encourage you with this, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Honestly, I can't really believe it's been 51 episodes. That's a long time. And I'm so excited. I have a couple episodes next lined up, and I genuinely am so excited for you guys to hear from these people and these guests. They're so wise, and they have just like so much to share, and I'm so excited for y'all to hear it. So thank you for listening. Make sure you are staying on like if you have Instagram or Facebook or something, make sure you're following the Honey in the Rock account, because I have some exciting things coming up soon. So that's where you'll probably find out about it first. But other than that, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.